Hello everyone, we just, sorry for the little delay, we have 45 minutes delay. We're starting now, and first of all, welcome, and welcome to the panelists as well. Introduce all of them right now. Before doing that, I would just like to read a little bit of what you're going to have in this panel, which I think is really interesting just to see the diversity in the types of projects that all them are doing, which I think are quite astonishing. I just met some of them. I watched 2 films. We have a 4th panelist, which is who's supposed to be the 3rd to speak, and is running a little bit late, but will be here with us shortly. So before we start, I would like to say, the session today is about significant projects of the megacities and metropolitan areas that will close the line of the interesting presentations in the Buenos Aires Hall, which is this one. During the next hour, the experts will tell us about one of the biggest development examples in Europe. So we'll have a range of projects that have been going on for some time and which have very high impact where they're situated. And so I would like to introduce all the panelists. The first one is Ahmad Abdelrazak. If I have to, you have to forgive my accent. Perfect. It's a Brazilian trying to speak with a British accent. Who lived in Germany for most of his life. So he's the Executive Vice President of the High-Rise Building and Structural Engineering at Samsung Corporation. Our second speaker is Victoria Hughes. She's the Executive Director of Old Oak and Royal Park Development Corporation. Our last speaker, so before I introduce the one, Rosalind, who hasn't arrived yet. So Andre, on our far right, on my far right, Progdov, he's the Senior Vice President of VTB Bank. As soon as Ruslan Shagaliyev arrives, he's the mayor of Innopolis. I'll introduce him for him to start. But I would like then to invite Ahmad to start. So a round of applause for all the panelists, and thank you very much for coming here today.
Okay. I will down a little bit. Hello? Oh, yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Well, today I think my major talk was supposed to be on Lakta Tower in St. Petersburg, but because of the request of the organizer, they requested to speak a little bit about Burj Dubai and to talk about how we derive the experience from a building in Burj to where we are on Lakta Center and the transfer of technology that we have. So I will go through Burj Khalifa very quickly to talk about our experiences and to show how the Lakta Center is in a much better position to create really a new city that utilizes the best technologies and also bring a different type of a new city that's as good as in a new modern architecture as the old one. So today, most skyscrapers, when we mention about skyscrapers, they capture the power of human imagination because of their scale, their symbolic nature, and also to show the financial well-being of technologies and some of the potential iconic representation of cities. So we do remember cities by their skyscrapers. As you can see here, Chicago, for example, previously is the city of skyscrapers where it started. We remember Hong Kong, Pearl of Asia. We remember New York, which is the hub of financial hub. Singapore, which is again is a modern city in which a huge amount of beautiful architecture and infrastructure has been developed. And then we remember the new financial hub in China, in Shanghai, and I was very fortunate to be involved in the Jinma Tower in Shanghai, which is essentially this building is the first project I did back about 20 years ago. And we also now, we are working in some cities like St. Petersburg, which I think it's a great, this is so, for example, is city of calm, in which there aren't many modern skyscrapers, but at the same time they dream to have one. And then what we have is Dubai. For example, when I started this project, it was, this whole area was this, practically it's a sand. But it gave an opportunity to many of the architects and engineers and brought a huge amount of technologies to the city that has become a symbol of what can be done. It's all about vision. And Kuala Lumpur and now St. Petersburg, what we have here is, it's a beautiful city. The question is, if you were to bring a new age of a modern architecture, what would you do there? And and to make sure there is no impact. Again, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao was one of the buildings in which a new modern architecture came in which before that we can only build buildings that we can know how to draw. But with this building, computer technology changed what we do in architecture, and this is what we see. Now, big cities, obviously, we talk about sustainability. Sustainability is extremely important. As you can see, denser cities tend to be more sustainable than cities that spread, for example, and we can longer spread. We need to consolidate and densify. As you can see, Hong Kong and Singapore is one of the most sustainable cities that you will see in comparison, for example, to US cities. This is a good example of Burj Khalifa. For example, if we were to build a building horizontally, it takes a huge amount of space. And we can no longer spread horizontally. We have to grow vertically. And the question is, how do we do it? And how we do it right is extremely important from a sustainability standpoint. Some of the key factors that affect tall buildings, obviously, it's massive. They require a lot of technology, a lot of consultant, massive amount of resources, massive amount of management. Again, when we started Burj Khalifa, it was as a desert land, and the dream was to create this a huge development, which is about $20 billion, which consisted of the residence, the business bay, business park, Dubai Mall, and the Old Town. Again, this is an overall credit for the people involved in the project. For myself, I was involved in the design of the project until finished design development. Then I joined Samsung, and I was doing the construction. And with this project, I was able to implement one of the biggest maker research projects ever established for tall building. What we have here is architectural design concept driven by architectural design of the desert. It's driven by also was an old residential building in which we need to do something in, that is every room get natural light. This is the influence of that. And integration, early integration of structure and architecture is extremely important to make the building very economical and also sustainable. With this building in particular, essentially when we calculated the volume of concrete, almost is the same as you were building a 20-story building in terms of square meter. It was extremely efficient. When engineering was a key consideration for that, in which we did a lot of work related to this. I think the structural system was very simple. It's made out of concrete, high strength, sitting on port piles. This is what it looks like. This is structural concept essentially consists of all concrete walls because it's an old residential at 9-meter bay. It was equipped to build. Essentially what we created is mechanized the entire construction process for this building. We're separated the vertical from horizontal construction, prefabrication of element to reduce the labor, and then also concrete pumping up to 600-meter, lifting of spires. And this is one of the structural health monitoring program in which we were able implement, understand what the building behavior at every instant of time as we're building in order to reduce the risk. So practically it's the biggest structural health monitoring program that was implemented at the time. And also using GPS system for survey, tilt meter to control the verticality of the building. When we complete the building, it was without 25 millimeter. Today, we are able to monitor the building in real time against wind, against seismic, against stress, strain, understanding the whole 9 yards of the building. And this is an example. There was an earthquake in Iran where we were able to control it. This is what the project looked like when we started. That was me, maybe about 14 years ago, 15. So again, we implemented a lot of new technologies that we will be using in Lakta Tower, as you will see in a little bit. This is just some of the construction photos and some of the work that we have done, cladding test. Again, these are some of the photos that you see. When we started the project, there was nothing in there. As we build it very fast, and today, the Dubai development or Burj Dubai development has continued to evolve since 2005. So the monitoring program at the top of the building, and that's what it looks like today, in a range of about 10 years. This is a new project that you will see for Burj Dubai as a new development. Today, the main topic that I will be talking about is Lakta Center, which is design and construction planning and all the technologies that we brought in from Burj Khalifa, and also trying to share it with this project. Samsung is the general designer on the project, and we also doing construction management on this project. Again, one of the key things that we need to deal with is LEED. Essentially, we saved about 40% energy in this project, and the project is going to be LEED Gold, and we are hoping that we continue the effort with everybody, we can get LEED Platinum. Again, the project is within 9 kilometers from city center, which is far away, and it gives us a chance to create a beautiful city with the great architecture. And with this project, we brought a lot of infrastructure to make the building very viable, which is extremely important for the overall development. Connectivity and mobility is extremely important for this project. Now, one of the things that characteristics of the project is essentially the building extrusion its theme is derived from this fortress. That's a 5-pointed fortress, and that's embedded in the shape of the building. Essentially, consisted of 5 leaves. They are straight, they twist, they taper, and they bow. So it makes the building construction extremely difficult, and the question, how do we do this building and build it at the fastest possible time? So what you see here is essentially the change of the building as we go up. The height, again, we have these areas, what I would call is the buffer zones, in which we have used those to reduce the amount of energy, the heat gain, and also to reduce the heating of the project. So this is what happens to the building as you go up, and now the building construction today is at 84 floors. The tower is 86-story, spiraling up to 462 meters above the ground with 3 basement levels. And the total building is essentially office building with some mechanical floor and the spire where we have an observatory. The gross floor area of the building is about 160,000 square meters. The multifunction building is a multi-use and mostly used for accessible to the public, which includes the many functions and also style abode and also the main arch. So what you can see here, the building is extremely well designed in terms of connectivity to the ground, in terms of making open to the public, making accessible. Essentially, the whole approach of the project was extremely, I think, will be successful to the whole project. So essentially, what we were expecting about the building area is about 400,000 square meter, and also A180 is for office use, and the rest is for public use. This is where the project stands today, and we are hoping to complete it before the end of the year. Now, the structural system of this building is also extremely efficient. We spent a huge amount of time optimizing the structural design. Even though the building is twisting, everybody thought the building will be expensive. But through proper engineering, we're able to come up with a very, very efficient structural system. The building is founded in a box foundation. and then we have a reinforced concrete core, which is a traditional construction, and then the column are composite column, which is very unique. It's never been used in Russia, and they don't have Russian standard how to deal with it. But we design this building all the time and internationally. That is linked through these outriggers to link the core to make the building very efficient. And also the spire that will house the observatory, and also it's used to reduce the wind effect on the tower. This is what you see here, is the raft foundation is a pretty big, very large load. We have about 67,000 tons of weight on the building that has to transfer into a foundation. Essentially, we use a box to allow the load transfer into the building. We did a lot of analysis into the tower to understand its behavior. The overall building displacement will be only about approximately 600, I think it's about more or less about 700 millimeter in both directions. And also we looked at the dynamic response, because the building perception to motion, when you build very tall, everybody should feel comfortable. Don't feel like it's sick or anything like that. This building shape is extremely good from wind engineering standpoint, in which we were able to control the movement of the building very well and reduce perception to motion. We also did a huge amount of work related to the construction sequence of the building. You can imagine this building is very tall. It's twisted. You apply the load, it's going to shorten and twist. And the question is, how do you control the verticality of the building, the movement, how you tie it up is extremely important. So we did an extensive amount of work related to construction sequence, trade by trade, day by day. It took about 4 to 5 days to just run the analysis to estimate the building movement. And also look at the foundation. Most engineers, geotechnical engineers, tend to be a little bit on the conservative end when evaluated. Based on our survey, we knew the building is stiffer. Now we're only measuring about less than 25 millimeter of settlement, where we expected a higher settlement. We also looked at the twist of the building to control the building movement well. Other factors that we have in order to reduce the energy is the facade design, which is consisted of a single glazing or double glazing system. And with this one, we're able to reduce significantly the amount of energy during summer and winter time. And we have a double skin in the buffer zone area and a single skin in other areas of the project. But also we implemented a unique way of cleaning the building, which takes about 150 days. This is just some of the system that we used in the facade for single glaze, double glaze, and also the top of the building as you keep from a distance in order to reduce the wind effect, and also at the same time to deal with the icing that could form at the top of the project. Again, the multifunction building is a pretty complicated. It's a life of its own, but it's also a jewel, I think, for accessibility to the public space. The exterior wall system, building maintenance system. We have about, we transfer every hour is about 1,280 people that we should accommodate. The tower has the 34 lifts and 62 lifts in the multifunction building, and it's a very high-speed elevator. Again, what we have is, as you can see, the fire shaft, the fire elevators go all the way up to the top of the building. This is where we are in terms of construction. Right now, obviously, we started design in 2013. The raft foundation or the box started in 2014. And then today, we're expecting the building to be completed by 2018, which is no different despite its complexity. This building has been managed really, really well, and essentially we're able to deliver the building within the international standards and a very high quality. And with that, 1 minute? Okay. This is where the project stands today. And I think at this moment we have to think for one thing. If we look at the difference between Burj Khalifa, we started in an area where people didn't even understand anything about tall building. We started with the desert sand. We started with no infrastructure. We started with many challenges that the building authorities didn't even have a code, local code, how to deal with it. Yet over a short period of time, through the dedication and the vision of the leadership there and being able to make decisions very quickly, we're able to build the city very quickly, very fast. And now Burj Khalifa had become the center hub of Dubai and the Middle East in particular, and that also to bring a huge amount of benefit to Dubai, as you all can see from 20 years ago. Laqta, for me, is actually, it's in a much better position. At this moment, I think how we manage the city, the planning, the new development, it has an opportunity to create something better than Singapore. Just in my opinion, just to bring the best architecture, the best designers, and make another city that can balance out what we started with the old historic district. This is an opportunity, and again, everything that was done so far on this project, from infrastructure, from the roads, from accessibility, from LEED, from new technologies, have opened a new era for St. Petersburg, I think, to really push forward and compete with the likes of Singapore and other important cities. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ahmad. So we'll jump straight away to Victoria Hills. Just to remind you, she's the executive director of Old Oak.
Can I ask a question to the previous speaker, please? Just a quick one. What is the square footage of Burj Khalifa?
The total area?
Square meters, yes.
The square meter of the total, 460,000 square meter.
And what's the budget?
The budget, it was about close to 1.6 billion for the tower alone.
Per meter, it's about 3,000. It's dollars, right?
Yes.
3,000 a square meter.
Yes.
Is it comparable to the price per square meter of the second building you were talking about?
It's a completely different quality in terms of an environment. Don't forget that the labor force that, for example, we use Burj Khalifa, they're all from India. They earn very little money. Number two is concrete is very cheap there.
No, but you're saying Laqta is more expensive.
Yes, a little bit more expensive. Mainly because the quality of the finish, the quality of the project is different. Even though it's fantastic project, again, the environment is different.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay.
So, sorry. Thank you very much, Victoria. So we look forward to hearing your presentation. It's just after the complexity of one huge development, which involves a center building. We're going to talk about a really amazing development is being done now in the UK, and there is a very exciting film to be seen as well before Victoria explains everything.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm delighted to be here. I work for the Mayor of London. I'm heading up one of his mayoral development corporations, and I'm going to be talking about something at a slightly different scale. We're very impressed by what we've just heard. We can only dream to go that high in London, but maybe one day we'll get there. So just to run through, just to introduce the area, you saw the introduction was London's largest opportunity area. The Mayor of London sets out a London plan for a period of 20, 30 years with a number of opportunity areas. We currently have about 38. And these are where commercial and residential development will be intensified and delivered. And introducing Old Oak Park Royal, the largest opportunity area. Just to orientate yourself, for those of you not familiar with London, this is to the west of London. It's in an area quite unknown actually, but about to become quite well known because of the infrastructure, and I'll come back to that. But just in terms of where it is, when the new station opens here in 9 years' time, it's going to be 8 minutes from the centre of London, 10 minutes from Heathrow, and 38 minutes from Birmingham. So this opportunity area is enabled by a new station, the largest station to have been built in the UK for 100 years, and the largest subsurface station to have ever been built in the UK. Why? Well, we have our second high-speed rail line opening in 9 years' time. And this is about linking up London's economy to the Midlands and to the north, helping to rebalance the economy. London's a very busy and dense, by UK standards, city, and this is about stretching the growth along a new infrastructure corridor. So there is going to be a really big new station in London called Euston, but Euston can't cope with all the passengers coming off of the new high-speed line, and so a new station at Old Oak is going to be delivered. Why here? Well, it's the only place in the country that interconnects with Crossrail. Crossrail is the 15 billion railway currently being built. It's partially opened, but opens in full next year. And this will be the largest rail infrastructure project for probably 100 years, soon to be trumped by High Speed 2 opening. Now, we're a small country in the UK, we don't have a lot of high-speed rail, but this is a very significant project, and the new station acts as a catalyst for opportunity. Why do we want to do this? Well, very similar to many of the world cities represented at this forum, but Moscow in particular, our population continues to grow far faster than we anticipated it was going to grow. I've had people asking me today, well, what about Brexit? I can assure you that there's no sign of population growth slowing currently. In fact, we're still exceeding the figures. People still want to come, and so where will they live? Well, this London plan I referenced sets out some pretty big targets for the opportunity areas. Here at Old Oak alone, the Mayor would like us to deliver 25,500 homes over the next 20 years with a significant commercial centre. And that really provides a statutory planning basis, if you like, for that growth. Just a little bit about the station. I referenced this is going to be a very large station. But this location in particular is important because all routes lead to Old Oak. When High Speed 2 gets expanded further up to the East Coast and Scotland, they all come to Old Oak, and that red spur that you can see there to Heathrow doesn't get built now. The government have pulled that scheme because it's very expensive, so Old Oak becomes the interchange for Heathrow, which is really important. So in the UK and London in particular, we have a focus on transport-orientated growth, transport-orientated development. We see all the big growth going around the new stations and existing stations where there could be more capacity. And this sort of really brings it to the fore where we have 10 rail lines coming into a place like Old Oak. That's the area where you can intensify, that's the area where you can go up. Because the transport connections are there. So just to introduce a mayoral development corporation, they're not unique to London, they're unique to any area that has an elected mayor. And it's all about working with the local boroughs and all your key stakeholders, but doing it in a very coordinated and structured way, where you have complex sites. This site's 650 hectares, and it crosses 3 administrative boundaries. I only flew in this morning, but so far the debates I've been hearing from the main hall to smaller halls have all been about how you can deal with things across jurisdictions to get the very best. And what we've done here with the Mayoral Development Corporation is effectively take the planning powers away from the local boroughs and put them into one plan which the corporation controls. We do it with representation from the local elected officials, but we do it in a strategic sense. And there are very good reasons for that. You have national infrastructure coming in, you have multi-jurisdictional boundaries, and if you were going to leave it to everybody to do their bit, probably nothing would happen, or at least it would be a lot slower. And because of the current housing crisis in London, as evidenced by the affordability, i.e. they're not very affordable, we need to move a bit quicker. So this is the core development site. It's 140 hectares. Of brownfield land around where the new station comes in. Just to put it into context, because not a lot of people had heard of Old Oak, and there's a conception it's sort of out in the middle of nowhere. It is a Hyde Park away from Hyde Park. We've measured it. It's in Zone 2-3, West London, And it's comparable to many of these other opportunity areas some of you may be familiar with, the Olympic Park, Canary Wharf, for example. Now, another theme I've heard at this conference already is land. And in London, it's so important. Who holds the land is important for how things are delivered, how quickly they're delivered, and what's delivered. And it's one of the first questions I had coming into this job is who owns those 140 hectares? And here it's very fortunate that the majority of it, the pink land you see here, is owned by the government, by Network Rail and the Department for Transport. So that makes the conversation a lot easier with them when we talk about how we're going to work together to bring forward development. So it's not a pretty site, and I think this is a good point to note that all of the easy to develop sites in London have all gone. We've got a unique situation in London where we've got a tightly controlled boundary by something called the Green Belt. We have two options. We either develop the difficult sites that are left over like this, or we develop the Green Belt, or we just don't build the homes. And then either we have some big social problems and or London can't grow and compete globally. Now, there's no appetite from the Mayor to build on Greenbelt in London, so that means we've got to roll our sleeves up and sort out these difficult sites. And they are difficult because if they weren't, the market would have already got there first. So it's a big strategic industrial site at the moment, and our role is how can we de-risk that? We do it through a statutory local plan, we do it through land assembly, and we do it through appointing master planners to help us, which then creates the offer, if you like, for investors to come in at the appropriate time. We've just appointed AECOM to master plan the site for us. And we take inspiration from around the world, including, this is how they do high-speed rail stations in Hong Kong. They make the most of every ounce of space. They don't just build a station, they build over the top of it, and they build world-class design. This is how they do iconic station design in New York. This is at the World Trade Center and Santiago Calatrava's station. I've been there, and it is a cathedral of marble. And we want to be as ambitious in London if we're going to build a station of this scale. And of course, this is how you do stations historically in Moscow. You have beautiful stations, which can be, I'm sure they are, but can continue to be the catalyst for future growth and regeneration, intensification around. But we have challenges in the UK that we have fragmentation between who does what. So we currently have an organisation called High Speed 2 who are building a railway, but they're not charged of building the development. So they come up with a lovely technical solution such as this for a station, which enables people to move around, but doesn't enable the development and, quite frankly, lacks some of that ambition. So part of our role working for the Mayor of London is to ensure that the High Speed 2 company, so government-controlled agency, can be more ambitious to realise some of those ambitions that I've alluded to and I've shown you examples of, really so that you can turn something like this into quite a dense, for London standards, opportunity area. So we've got a lot of work on our local plan, on our master plan, in bringing together the land, etc. But the important point to note is we're not a dictatorship. We do it in very close collaboration with the community, because there are some people who live in the area. It's only about 4,000 of them so far, and there'll be 80,000 in 20 years' time. But we've got to take them with us, and we've got to tell the story. And there is a story to tell. We've already got 10,000 homes in pre-application already, with probably 2,000 consented by the end of the year. Lots of challenges on infrastructure. None of that's new, novel or contentious. But what developers tell us, what investors tell us is you need to get the infrastructure investment going early if you're going to encourage us to build. And so we're working through how we might do that, and we're learning from others. Globally, MTR in London, Battersea, Docklands, etc. So we would like to keep in touch. I'll bring that up at the end, but before that, we'd just like to show you this film, which has just gone off unhelpfully. Should we try that again? There is a film that we'd like to take you through, because When you're talking about a large opportunity area, it's, if we could just turn the sound down ever so slightly. One thing a lot of community and stakeholders have for us is, well, it all sounds amazing, but it sounds a bit unrealistic, doesn't it, really? And so you have to sort of visualise something to make it a bit real, because it is a long-term project. And you know, here are the two major national rail infrastructure rail lines coming in with all the existing lines. And when you have 10 lines coming together with London's 5 airports being connected for the first time, there is the opportunity to be ambitious. There is the opportunity to create a new community. But you know, it's difficult taking everybody with you on that journey when you are starting with that difficult brownfield site that I pointed out in the future. So what this film will show is a bit of a fly-through to kind of make it real. It's a very important tool for us with our local community in terms of describing to them what it could look and feel like. And so it's not all 80-storey skyscrapers. You know, much as I like some of those beautiful buildings, sadly the UK is not quite ready for that level en masse yet. We would like one tall building at least by the station so that we can look over towards the Shard. But around the station itself we envisage best part of, well, 2/3 the size of Canary Wharf, dense commercial development, because with those rail connections, that's where you should be putting commercial development to have a balanced community so that people can come and work here. And then we envisage high quality residential areas, and I haven't mentioned the canal, but water is really important in the UK, as I'm sure it is here. If you've got 1.5 kilometres of prime canal frontage running through the heart of a regen scheme, that makes it very attractive for people to live, very attractive for developers and investors, with very high quality urban rail to boot. So we're right at the start of putting together our master plan, but we have 9 years until the station opens. So for us, it's that station that's the catalyst that can be the gateway, the catalyst for delivering this future part of London. So I think I'm out of time now, but thank you very much for listening. And if you like this film, you can watch it on YouTube, along with some vlogs that I'll be doing while I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victoria. It's an amazing presentation. We can have the pleasure, we're talking about cities and the challenges I was saying before, like shows the challenges of transportation. But it's great. We're very happy to have Ruslan Shagalayev. Sorry for my accent. And we're very happy that you arrived. So it's all with you. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay. Good day. Добрый день. I'm sorry. I will speak Russian.
No problem.
Для начала я хотел бы вам.
First of all, I'd like all of us to watch this video. Many of you may have heard that about this Innopolis as a project. It's in the Republic of Tatarstan. Let me first of all, so that you had some background, let me show you a video. It's quite emotional. There are no numbers there about our Innopolis city.
It's frightening. But you never know if you're ready for a change until you try. This world is still quite new, but you already know your place in it. This is a new chapter of your life, and only you know what will be written, which way you will go, and where it will lead you. You strive to keep pace with everything, because you don't want to miss out on anything. In the rhythm of the modern times, you are always experiencing new emotions. Without changing your habits, you will stay who you are. It is this that helps you to do what you can, get what you want. It's not as easy as it seems. but it grabs you because of the grand prize, your future. The journey can be more interesting than the destination. That you will experience when you reach your goal will never be forgotten. A new time has come. The future is already here. You know it and feel the emotions that you want to share. The freedom to create what you want in this new life, in this new world. Innopolis, Special Economic Zone.
Да, итак,
Well, we are going to be talking about Innopolis, which is located in Tatarstan, 40 kilometers away from Kazan city. I'm a mayor of this young city. This is the first ever city that was built from zero as the Soviet Union collapsed. I would like to share on our city. This is the way it looked like 3 years ago. This is the green field, 100%. And within 3 years, within 5 years, we built it. We settled it. This year, we celebrated the 2nd anniversary of our city. What does it mean now to live in Innopolis? 3 major components: university, Innopolis, intellectual core of our city. University trains bachelors and masters, experts, 4 IT majors, 6 IT majors, the lecturers, professors, most of them are coming from abroad, Europe, United States, in English, and 550 students. The capacity is, design capacity is 5,000 students and 1,000 per year graduates. Special economic zone. The second one in Tatarstan, the first economic zone, it was the technical and implementation and environment for life. All the infrastructure required for the young specialists and students to come in the city and live and enjoy their life there. Yeah, just a snapshot. Currently, we have 3,000 population inhabitants. What are the major questions, major challenges? How to attract, how to engage best IT specialists to this Innopolis city, how to make them believe that this project is going to survive, how to create a high-quality infrastructure under budget constraints. And we answered the first question as follows. We divided, we resolved this enigma, what comes first, chicken or hen. And good specialists, they come where there is a good employment places offered. High qualified specialists, there is a need in the companies for them. And young specialists, they come where they can buy their own apartment, send their kids to school or kindergarten, etc. In one single location, we merged these 3 aspects together. And now we have a big expectation list of specialists and companies who can come to us, who can establish their offices and hire their employees in our city. There is a waiting list. And for the company, it is important to hire high-skilled personnel. Based on our mayor house, we created a HR resource center. Company comes to us, we prepare, we have a recruiting center, and we train specialists for the company needs. Not all the big development companies. I forgot to mention one thing. The companies launch their offices, only the companies that are related to IT sector. Not all IT companies need high-class specialists. Sometimes there is a need, there is a demand for the average level, for the mid-level programmers and developers. Based during these years, jointly with the university, we designed the curriculum, 300 training hours, and we tailor the curriculums for any customer, for any company that comes and launches the office. It's not necessarily that this is a programmer, and but after undergoing this training course, these people graduate and they can grow further. How to develop infrastructure in the city with a rather small number of people living in. And in the beginning, we opened kindergartens, schools for the children. We support SMEs, so the folks who come to us to this brand new city, and with no stress, with the minimum stress once they resettle from the big city, to start living, how to create high quality environment under budget constraints. We have an iterative approach. In top management, we don't have a single specialist. No former authorities, municipality employee is there. We are all coming from the business. And the city as a service, this is our perception. And we have a pool definition. And we can see what is the cost of one citizen, and based on the cost of ownership of the citizen in the city, we develop the urban environment based on what is the cost of one citizen, and on the other hand, what is the tax paid by the citizen. And so we calculate that. And we have 56 partners and residents in Innopolis Special Economic Zone, Sbertech, Yandex, Kaspersky Lab, and InfoWatch. This is just a small portion of our partners. Once you come to ATM, Sberbank ATM, or open Yandex page, one way or another, you see the product that was either developed or supported from our Innopolis city. And 113 companies are already registered in Innopolis. After IT companies, SMEs started to come to us, restaurants and services and gyms, and we have 3,000 plus population inhabitants, and currently it's a big win for us and headache at the same time. We fully loaded our infrastructure. Our republic built 16 high-rise buildings. They're fully inhabited by the specialists now, but we have a big waiting list of companies coming to us to build more residential and commercial premises. And for Russia, we have the biggest apartment rental projects running in Russia. We realized that to make people wanting to come to us, on the support of the Republic, we reduced the cost of living. Like one-room apartment rent is 7,000 rubles per month only. This is fully furnished, equipped with the home appliances. It's like a hotel. You come and only need to buy a toothbrush and toothpaste. Two-room apartment, 75 square meters, is 10,000 rubles per month. So the commercial real estate can be rented 100 rubles per square meter. We incentivize SMEs to come to our city. And within this time, 450 million rubles we collected and sent to the regional budget from the resident companies. So far, maybe it's not very impressive, but we are already paying back these investments to the region. And we realize that the modern city is not just good buildings, number of good buildings, set of good buildings and commercial areas. This is a service, city as a service. We have such unique products. We started from concierge service. You know, concierge service is a well-known thing. And we have our own concierge service, 24/7. You can call and ask any question, how to come to the city. I have a leakage, like taxi failed to come. And you can call ambulance, medical services. This is a one-window service. Starting from this year, they provide services through concierge services. They can meet documents to issue with foreign passport and do other documentation. And communication with me, with the in the Republic, we have a Ministry of Communications, and we communicate through the group in Telegram. We have 140 groups in a messenger Telegram. We have a super group, super Innopolis. This is over 1,500 participants. We have a kindergarten group. We have a pet fan group, etc. And so they can write to me, to the minister, or to the federal minister, Anatoly Nikiforov. 2 clicks. This is what it takes. We answer immediately, almost, and we have special hashtags, so we can expeditiously respond to any. This is the further way to.
I need to. Can you wrap up in another 1 or 2 minutes? What? Can you wrap up, finish in 1 or 2 minutes?
Yes.
More? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Мы пошли дальше.
We went even further. We have 4 bots. Bot service, and we have standard requests, how to subscribe to doctor, how to use the public transportation. We have bots, so-called bots, and this year we hired a virtual helper, the first virtual helper in our mayor house in software, and she responds to requests. You can ask, how are you, how to get to Kazan, and this software can answer. If it doesn't know the answer, there is a function, so the author of the question can train her, and she keeps it in her memory, and so we train the software by ourselves. And our KPI, index of happiness, we have it in Innopolis, and based on this index of happiness, we can judge whether we are doing successfully or not. And we believe there is a formula of happiness for Innopolis: education, environment, federal projects, and social capital. What we mean by social capital is our inhabitants. This is our population. So this is a center of attraction and new opportunities for the business and private investors. We are not a proof of concept anymore. We are developing very intensely, and we can scale up our business case, and we can share all the information and expertise required. I believe I'm on time.
So, as to wrap up our panel, we will have the pleasure. We'll give you some leeway. We won't hurry you like to do everything in 2 minutes. Don't worry. So, so we'll probably jump to the next panel as well, which I will moderate as well. But we have the pleasure to have Mr. Andrei Pregodov, just to remember, Senior Vice President of the VTB Bank.
Уже давно девушка сзади вас, вы не видели, показывала 5 минут.
The girl was showing 5 minutes. I need to wrap up. It's good to be the last speaker, because we can wrap up real fast. Do we have 5 minutes? Yeah, we do. And I've seen your robot already. This is a true robot. And Gosha Kutsenko wanted to make a plot, and he wanted to shoot him in a movie. I've read this plot. Serежа, Tanya, Vaля, on husband and wife brought a robot in house, and the husband became jealous to this robot. Too many people go to universities, and once the robot raises a hand, and everybody gives him applaud. But we want to expect more from the robot. It's a very impressive project. As far as our project is concerned, I do have a presentation. Do I need to press a button to launch it? Or Dynamo project in Petrovsky Park. It's an interesting project indeed, and I believe most of the projects of our scale, they have an infrastructure nature. But this is the project Barbara was sharing with us, London Cross Rail. Okay. And 23 billion, this is the project cost. In California, high-speed rail project is another one. This is $80 billion. These are gigantic projects. In English, there is an expression. And these are the public or municipal expenses enabling to progress forward. I apply to private development. Even VTB belongs to the government. We believe this is a commercial project which will pay back, and we need to be talking about development projects. On this page, I picked the projects that I like, really, and these are the projects that change the unpleasant place or forgotten or obsolete place or place requiring improvement, and turns out into very impressive and bright. And Singapore is clear, you need to understand, but Singapore was never, it is not always like beauty back then, and they are running a tender for the master planning. We just used to get to know that Singapore is the best city in the world, but it is not always like that. In New York, former shipyard where they built a train track, and there is a concrete platform that covers many infrastructure objects, and they created a new land, $30 billion, and one of the candidates, president candidate Rose, he was a candidate presidential, he was running for president, but he was a developer, in fact. Right corner Staples Center, it was built in a difficult, challenging area where it was difficult in LA to get there, but they built Staples Center. They have free teams, Camps Lakers and Clippers. They built several hotels, Sony theaters, you know, and this white roof that you can see. This is the former Congress Center, and now it is used for American football. And Dubai is fully remodeled city. It used to be the dirty city with a dirty road, but now it's a tourist attraction. And Barbara likes, of course, and all of us like it. This is O2 Arena, and remember the docker strikes, Docklands, so all this story with Margaret Thatcher, and it resulted in building the Canary Wharf, and they built a remarkable complex. Without their home team, they still run 220 concerts and events. Let me switch. I still have 3 minutes. Let me switch to our remarkable project. These are favorite 32 hectares in the center of Moscow, and because of being limited in time, I'll put it in 2 words. We need symbols, always. We are coming up with new symbols. This is sun and love. two words that depict our project. We want sun because we have rainy weather during this summertime, but we love this place. We approach it with love. Before we even started our project, we recalled the story, the preceding story. We recalled that in Petrovsky Park, Pushkin used to stop. He was dining with his friends, and the Petrovsky Palace was built back in the 20s. Last year, they built a sport cluster that we are trying to recover. One slide back to show what's been done so far. On the right, you can see this is a commercial, Hyatt and residential buildings. On the left, this is a stadium, and everything is combined, merged by the park. We believe they will coexist and complement each other, these two parts. Let me dwell on the stadium part. We had to incorporate two objects. The football stadium was pointless to build, 20 matches no more, but in the stadium, inside the stadium, we inserted two arenas, football and hockey, basketball and concert hall, and by doing so, we will enable this place to be so let's go to Dynamo. In Moscow there was a word, let's go to Dynamo. I'm a Muscovite. It was so heartwarming slogan and motto, and we retain the park, and via this park we will keep connection between commercial and sport, and maybe link between generation. Back then in 1905 it was the first cinema studio. Pushkin visited it, Petrovsky Palace, and everything is combined by the synergy of love and sun. I wish you all success. Thanks for coming. Time is up.
Thank you so much for the panelists. I mean, it was a big pleasure. I would like to first of all ask for a round of applause again for everyone that spoke today here at this panel.